Hey, don't forget about me, Frank!
What is going on, everybody? My name is Box from Box and Jackalope, and we are back with another epic Kun-Lai Campfire podcast, joined with our regular co-hosts, Farak and Jakai. We also have a very special guest tonight. Many of you may know him from the Machinima community, but we got my good friend Laurentium here tonight. How are you doing, Law?
Hello, I'm doing wonderful. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing excellent because 10.2 is among us, and we've received the ending cinematic. I'll start things off by saying I think 10.2 is a very solid patch. I've had a lot of fun with it gameplay-wise. I did actually like the quest line, too, leading up to the ending. I haven't done the raid yet as of this recording, so I don't quite know, but I like the zone, and the questing's fun enough, and yeah, overall, I had a pretty solid time with it. Now, this whole podcast today isn't going to focus on the patch as a whole, but we're going to be talking about the ending of Dragonflight, some of the implications, what we thought of it. I'm going to leave most of the talking to everybody else on this episode because we have 4 people tonight, but I will just start with my brief thoughts on the ending cinematic at the end of the raid. So overall, I would say that cutscene the ideas were solid. I think some of the dialogue didn't work, and I think that was kind of the general consensus of the community. The dialogue was very corny in that ending cinematic, and my biggest disappointment was I think Farak should have had some sort of moment after his defeat, considering he's the last boss of the expansion. I think just kind of cutting to the aspects, well, it made sense story-wise, it felt like something was missing in between there. A lot of people have pointed out on Twitter that the cutscene, because it's the aspects regaining Azeroth, giving the aspects their power back, the cutscene tonally was supposed to mirror the Cataclysm ending. And I think it did that, but it just kind of dragged on a little bit too much through all that dialogue, and then some of it just coming across very cheesy. And that was my big problem with it. But as an ending, it was fine, and I will say one thing that I think Dragonflight has been going for tonally, and y'all might disagree with me about this, but I think we're going to be heading towards 3 really dark expansions, so they really tried to keep this expansion like one of those things. It's like, man, we had it good back then, I think they really, really upped the lightheartedness of Dragonflight, and it's very apparent through the dialogue and the storytelling of this patch. I am going to toss this out to you 3, though. I've kind of said my piece on the ending. I've went on a bit of a tangent, but I would like to start with Ban first, or we could start with Law. I'll let you both pick.
We could rock, paper, scissors it.
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors. Throw a rock.
Rochambeau. Yeah, I'll just throw a rock at Ban. See how that works.
Well, if you're just going to tell me what it is, I already know what I'm going to throw down.
All right, so I'm going to override this.
Or is that your strategy?
I'm going to override this rock, paper, scissors game, and I am going to toss it to Law first. So, Law,
right.
What did you think of the ending of Dragonflight as of the raid? Because this isn't technically the ending. We have more story coming, too. Just bear that in mind, everybody.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We do have a lot more story to tell, especially in 10.2.5 and the subsequent patches. I do think that 10.2, while the idea for having the Dragonflights the Dragon aspects regain their spectral powers was a good idea, I feel like that ending in particular should have gone a lot differently. So basically, the way I thought of it was, take a shot every time somebody said family or together or unity or something like that. And you'd probably end up very, very drunk or end up with alcohol poisoning. But actually, though, I do think that the dialogue in that cinematic was very camp, very corny. It didn't feel... It felt out of place. It felt like... It honestly, from a narrative standpoint, it felt like the characters themselves were talking to you, the player, like it was like Dora the Explorer, right? it felt childish. It felt very, very sophomoric in some places. And I said it before on my Twitter. I would say I would do things a lot differently if I had that sort of directional power of telling the story. And I think the way I would probably end it was to have a moment with Farak, and I do agree with you on that. Farak went out without any sort of fanfare. He just went out. But during the Amirdrassil raid, like he's very, very present. We see him as this villain that's like very threatening, like, but at the same time, he's very playful. He's very, very chaotic in that sense. So obviously there are points in the raid where he will show up, like for instance, after the Smolderon fight, he absorbs Smolderon's essence, gives a good thank you to him, and literally leads off with saying bye to Tindril, the penultimate boss, and makes a small little rift, or as we call it, the I think it's the I'm not sure what the name is. It's a portal to the heart of Amirdrassil, but for all those at home, it's the Skarusi. Look, you know what you signed up for. But actually though, I feel like there could have been a moment where either one of the aspects or Viranoth even could go in and deal with Farak and try to deal with him, but ends up getting probably wounded at some point, where the aspects would try to go in and try to stop Farak, but then of course we have the Amirdrassil just blooming and literally giving the aspects their power, and their first act would be to deal with Farak. I think that specifically it's how it should have ended. Instead of just like having like this whole expositional cinematic where they're just like, oh yeah, Azeroth gave us our spectral powers back, but it was us that worked together as a family. Together, let's take a shot. Everybody, take a shot every time we say family or together. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
I 100% agree with you, Law, about Viranoth should have been the one to take down Farak in the raid. I think that would have been really good. Either that or Alexstrasza, or even all of them. That would have just been a nice scene. But
I will say, sorry to interrupt there.
Oh no, it's okay.
I will say, when it comes to, I guess like someone who should have done it. I mean, you do say that, oh yeah, all of them together should have taken Farak down, which, I mean, it would have been. I think it would have been good because Blizzard has this habit in past expansions of showing but not telling. Whereas in this cinematic, they do a lot of telling but not a lot of showing.
Right.
So, you know, the one obvious example I'm going to use is the end cinematic for Argus and Taurus. Everybody knows that cinematic. It's probably one of the most iconic expansion endings in World of Warcraft history, at least recently, I should say. Right up there is probably, you know, obviously obvious examples would be like Wrath of the Lich King, Mist of Pandaria. Those expansions having some of the most iconic endings to an expansion. So when I think of that, I always think of those three in particular. And that is something that I really hope to see in the near future, is expansion endings that end just like that, especially with especially with the Legion ending. That ending is embedded in my head. How Illidan basically stays behind and decides to deal with Sargeras himself. And then of course we have the Titans going ahead and trying to deal with Sargeras their own way. Sargeras making the last-ditch effort to basically stab the planet. And that's where we have the sword. I feel like, obviously, in a show-and-tell sort of situation, they could definitely show Azeroth, or Amirdrassil blooming and the aspects getting their power. They could still do that. But if they want to make this epic, they should at least have Farak not go down without a fight. Because he just went down. That was it.
Right. So I would like to throw it out to our good friend Banarak now, because I know he's eager to talk about this.
You know I am, buddy. I've been sitting here patiently, waiting to talk. I've got a lot to say.
I've been looking at that Mok'Nathal icon, and it's been staring at me.
You stared into the abyss, and the abyss stared back.
With that one eye.
That one eye. That sword was aimed at someone. Okay, I'm sorry. I love referencing that cinematic. All right. I have very similar thoughts to both of you in terms of the cinematic, so I don't want to, like, repeat what's already been said, but I'll say basically my piece. I don't understand why the dialogue was this stiff and this almost, I wouldn't say robotic, but it was very just, like, it just... I don't get it. Like, they've done dialogue before that's, like, spoken to me, and this just was not it. This was very... I don't want to use the same words that everyone does, but, like, it felt very childish. It felt very, like... I don't want to say, like, Paw Patrol, like some people have been referencing. I don't think it's that bad, but... yeah, the dialogue could be better. In terms of the ending itself, with them becoming the aspects, it's fine. I think that in itself is, like, okay. I think that's probably the best part about it. But it's the dialogue that happens after it. It's them just being like, Azeroth has empowered us. This is not Titan magic. Like, I already kind of knew about this ending for months because it was data mined. Not the actual cinematic itself, but, like, them becoming aspects. So that's not really a surprise. But this dialogue, Vironoth being an aspect, and that's an interesting part that I'm sure we can talk about afterwards. But, yeah, no, the cinematic itself is not one of the greatest. You know, Legion will probably be my favorite just because of what so much happens in the Legion cinematic. You have Sargeras stabbing the planet. You have Illidan remaining behind. You have the Titans kind of, you know, giving up. Not well giving up, but like that, you know, they're sacrificing themselves in a way to stay on the seat of the Pantheon. And then you have Velen Sai, and then the moment of him just being happy that the Legion's been defeated for this time, for this moment, and then you have that shot of the sword in Zilithus, which, you know, set the stage for everything that's happened since Legion. That's a good cinematic, and again, some of my other favorites is the Mista Pandaria ending. That one's really good, with making Vol'jin the War Chief, even though it kind of just loses its flavor because Vol'jin dies, like, moments later in Legion.
That cinematic, though, that one in MoP still speaks to me. I love that one.
It's still good. It's just, it sucks that it's kind of aged poorly because of what's happened in Legion. And then obviously you have Arthas's ending. All of those are really good endings. This one, it's not the worst. I still think the Zoth and the Jailer is probably taking the cake. The rotten cake, rather. But in talking about, like, what should have happened with this cinematic, definitely better dialogue, for starters. But I feel like, yes, to mirror your guys' words, Farak should have been involved, but I haven't done the raid myself either, but I know what comes after this, and I feel like that's important to bring up what each of the characters has to have to say, and, like, since we're already talking about the ending, I might as well say what happens. Yes, the aspects do help you face Farak. They kind of have a dialogue back and forth between Farak, and Farak kind of dismisses them constantly. It's very, very mirror to Deathwing's fight, really. It itself is basically just a nod to Cataclysm. So the cinematic being a nod to Cataclysm is fine, and the fight being a nod to Cataclysm is fine. I think that we should have had, because this is an important part of the cinematic, it happens off-screen, Amirdrassil coming into bloom into the real world should have been a cinematic of itself. I mean, you could have had Farak react to that being ripped away from him, and I think I understand why they probably didn't give Farak a moment here. He's coming back. Abyssian basically reflects on that he felt something when Farak died, where he basically returned to the realm that gave him the power that he has in the first place. So, Firelord Farak? Probably happening. So they probably... That whole cutscene with him absorbing Smolderon, that was done on purpose. That was done with reasoning. So, Farak is probably coming back. And that's probably why they didn't give him a moment. I don't agree with that, but that's probably why. And that at least gives him some future roles, especially with a Rotocron still out there. I feel like Farak will probably be recruited by a Rotocron again, and he'll be, chastised by him. Very Megatron, very Starscream relationship, those two.
Oh my god, I love their relationship in the book. The War of the Scaleboard.
Yeah, the book is great, but like the cinematic stuff also has been great. If there's anything that the Dragonflight has done, is the Incarnates are probably the best characters that have come out from Dragonflight. The aspects haven't been really handled the best, in my opinion. I feel like they didn't really do anything, and that's kind of why it sucks. That
I can't really...
like this should have been their moment. This should have been them taking down Farak and showing why they are the aspects. And it has me a little worried if they are the aspects of Azeroth. Like, what role are they going to play within the World Soul Saga? Are they going to have a role? Like, or are they just going to remain behind in the Dragon Isles and not really do anything like they did before Cataclysm? Like in Wrath of the Lich King, they weren't helping really against the Scourge or the Burning Legion or anything like that. They just kind of remained in their own little isolated areas, and there was lore behind why they didn't, but they really don't have a reason now. Unless their reasoning is going to be, we need to protect Amirdrassil. So, yeah, it's not the greatest end cinematic. It's not the worst. A lot could have been done better. The dialogue, the cinematography, I think one of the things that bothered me is the overusage of the visage forms. They're dragons. Why aren't they in their aspect forms? Especially, they could showcase how good Abyssian's new model is in a cinematic. Abyssian has one of the best dragon aspect forms, and you barely see it. And it's kind of upsetting, actually.
I just want to point out, Ben, you and I are the same person, because that's like exactly where I'd rank the cinematic too, by the way, for what you said.
I feel like it's under Cataclysm. I don't know, Cataclysm's cheesy, but like, it's cheesy in a good way that works.
Yeah, Cataclysm, and I like the music too.
It's fine. I think Cataclysm's ending is fine. In terms of the best one, it's Legion. The second best, probably Wrath. The third best is Mop. And then fourth best is Kata. And then I have a lot of issues with the WoD one. And I guess the lack thereof of a Burning Crusade one. I guess you kind of have that Illidan cinematic that kind of holds the placement of that. Like Illidan being like, Tarunda. And, being sad. I guess that's kind of the Burning Crusade ending if you really want to be technical, but then you also have the Sunwell.
Sunwell. Can't forget about that. Remember the Sunwell.
Remember the Sunwell.
Remember the Sunwell.
At midnight.
Oh yeah, I am looking forward to that, by the way, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's another topic for another day. But I think the worst ending for me is the N'Zoth ending. I don't like that one. That one actually makes me angry.
I think
like,
the real ending of BFA was Reckoning.
Yes, but so the Starfang cinematics are like on next level in terms of like WoW cinematics. Like those were brilliant. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Well, some people will, but But yeah, a lot of my thoughts are very similar to your guys's in terms of that. I wish Farak was in it more, but I think we're getting more Farak, and I hope they touch on that. I would love it if one of the, I want because we're not done with Dragonflight. There's still some quest lines left. Probably stuff dealing with the Heritage quest line is what I'm guessing, but I would love it if Farak is just reborn in the Firelands, and, he's, getting ready to, try and retake the tree, and then a Rotocron pops up, and he's like, bro, you ain't doing this shit again. You don't have that. You don't have that opportunity. You're coming with me, and Farak has to go with a Rotocron, and see, that's, how you add, it's not, that's how I would do it, there's stuff left over.
So
from the cinematic.
I want to throw something out to you about Farak coming back, 'cause I absolutely love that theory that you have about him. I know you talked to me about it before the podcast when you brought it up, and that is just so damn cool. But something I wanted to throw out to you. So when you brought that up, I was thinking, maybe we will see that in one of the epilogue patches, because it would make sense given the current storyline.
Mhm.
Could you see in one of the epilogue patches them potentially adding like a Druid of the Flame customization for the players, but incorporating it into that story? Maybe there's a group that, doesn't know what to do
It's
now or something. I know they're evil, but I'm just curious, 'cause I'm sure there are people that want to play as them, and if they added Eridar, I feel like there can be a group that rejoins the Night Elves after everything.
there is already a quest line you can do in the game where there are Druid of the Flame members who are outright like, we ain't doing this. Farak is crazy. Our leader is crazy. The Prophet of Flame is crazy. We need to get out of here. And there's only 2 of them at the moment. And the 2 of them are like, immortality is not worth this. They are part of the young generation of the Kaldor. They were born after the Third War. And they look at immortality with some foreignness. They don't really understand what's so great about it, and it's not really worth it. So you already have some Druid of the Flame who are kind of apprehensive to Farak's goal and the rest of their cult's goal.
I did
And
not know about that.
There are remnants remaining. The one female Druid of the Flame member who has, I think, a missing eye, or a scratching eye or whatever. I don't remember her name. And I apologize for that. I'm not good with new character names as well, especially ones added to the patch recently. But she's still out there, and I think another member or leader is still out there. So there's a high chance that we will see the Druid of the Flame either recruited by the end of Dragonflight in the epilogue chapters that we haven't done yet. I don't know if that's after the raid. I assume it is. Or in the patches that happen afterwards. I do think we are going to get Druid of the Flame customization. We already have the Druid forms, so why not? You already have the Eridar joining, and you already have... this would be a great opportunity to add other stuff like Fel Orcs down the line. I'm trying to think of what other... There's plenty of Orc customizations. Dear God, there's a lot. There's the Blackrock skin color, there's the Dragonmuck skin color, there's the Fel Orc skin color. I'm just saying, I do think that the Druid of the Flame customization for Night Elves is totally on the table. That's a check mark away. So, yeah, I think that will happen.
I definitely see it in the future. I see it in the future.
I definitely think, with the, especially being able to kind of unlock, because I think the new Moonkin things include a sort of Druid of the Flame Moonkin kind of appearance, don't they?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not exactly on par with actually playing a Druid of the Flame, but you know what I'm saying. It feels a little hinty, maybe. I don't know.
I hope they add it because you have the Hawk form that looks really cool. Despite being a Cataclysm model, these really hold up. You already have the Cat form, which they updated recently, so it'd be cool if they gave us like more. But yeah, I'll pass the microphone up to good old Kai.
Yeah, it would have been kind of funny though, seeing like the N64 graphic flame cats running around out there. But honestly, I have to I like listening to you guys. I mean, I'm trying to think, what is something interesting I could add to this without just being like, hey, it was pretty underwhelming and definitely came off as almost very childish. You kind of mentioned that already. Best way I could sum it up is how it felt. And granted, it's not the worst deal in the world, but the ending cinematic was very much ChatGPT presents World of Warcraft starring Vin Diesel. And I know there's been a million memes with Vin Diesel on Twitter and stuff like that, and it's hilarious. I'm struggling to find anything unique to really add to it. I will say it was definitely underwhelming for me. But that is kind of a good thing that it leaves off on a cliffhanger if it has to be underwhelming, as strange as that might sound. Because if a character has to return, or if a character is going to return, if the cliffhanger isn't all that well, God, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. What were you gonna say, Vox? Maybe you have a better example of what I'm trying to say.
I guess like if like you were saying, like if it's gonna end on a cliffhanger, like for a character like maybe like we said earlier, like Farak coming back, And I guess too, like it's not technically the ending of Dragonflight's storyline, so it kind of works out good still in a way. Is that what you're trying to say?
Sort of. It's like it's not quite final yet. So I guess it was mostly okay for me that it wasn't the best thing in the world, because it's not like, oh hey, this is the end of the experience, if that makes any sense. But
yeah.
I'm trying to paint it in a positive light, because I know this is probably not very entertaining to hear. Just criticism about it the entire time. Because I mean, I think for the most part, the community kind of collectively agrees that it was very, I don't want to say condescending, but it was just very, you told us, you didn't show us what you were trying to say, what you were trying to convey here. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, like I pretty much just kind of just to follow up what you said about that. Like, I think Blizzard is trying to change the way they do their storytelling going forward, and I think one of the things is like, I think the ending of the raid like that, like especially with it being the last raid, it holds high expectations. Like where you have like the Antorus ending, the Mists of Pandaria ending, the Lich King ending. But I think they're really trying to change that format where they want the story to feel like this ongoing thing that bridges naturally. So maybe, like you said, like maybe this isn't the end, and we'll get an actual end cinematic in 10.2.7 or something.
It feels guaranteed not to be. At least to me, it does feel a little foreign, because it's the first time really kind of seeing that. I think I can't think of another example of this happening, but yeah, to end the expansion, especially the last raid, on a note like that feels a bit too bizarre for me to think, oh well, that's just it. That's the thing. It feels like there is going to be more to come. I just hope they do a much better job at kind of portraying the, I don't even want to say the word edge, but just not really making it so toned down, and I guess trying to present lessons and things of that sort. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Sorry, I didn't want to like. I just want to like chime in for like a second there. I do agree with what Kai is saying there, that the ending of Dragonflight felt a little bit tamer than recent expansions. Now,
Right.
if we're thinking about like tame expansions, I wanted to like give like Mists of Pandaria when it was presented initially as an example. Because we had Mists of Pandaria presented as this expansion where we were going to the land of Pandaren, and we were going to learn all the lessons that were presented by Pandaren ideology, learn about their history, their culture, and what we didn't realize is that, also, the Alliance and Horde are at odds with each other, so we're gonna make this a little bit more extreme. So we yeah,
Sorry.
so the whole got that for you coming up there. But I feel like if Dragonflight was to be, on that same level that Mists of Pandaria had, I think it should definitely take like that specific plot to heart. Not necessarily having the Alliance and the Horde at odds with each other, but obviously having some sort of like gruesome story beat with that as well.
I wouldn't even say gruesome, like, it's funny because I almost used the last cinematic of Mists of Pandaria, or maybe it was like near the last, but the one especially where Vol'jin is essentially made war chief, and Varian kind of confronts them, and he's like, "We will end you." Like it kind of lacks that element. It's over the top, of course. Like that's just all of what WoW kind of is, and that's kind of a good thing. But it still has a bit of that edge. The edge is really the only word I can think of, and maybe it's an awful one, but it felt pretty good. Like it
Oh
didn't
yeah.
hit in any way like that. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Maybe we just have like two different definitions of the word edge. So.
Yeah, I definitely don't mean like edgy. I just mean, you know,
Oh.
it felt, I don't know, strong.
It felt
like,
felt
there's
unique
some
is
tension.
what you're
There's
trying
some
to go with.
tension and
Yeah.
maybe something like that.
I get exactly actually Kai what you're saying.
It's like there's a cliffhanger here, but it doesn't give the same tension as what happened there. At least for me.
Well, also you have to remember, you know, comparing this ending to Shadowlands ending, where the Shadowlands ending was just vague 3D chess, just a vague 3D chess ending, which gets us guessing. Oh, like we're left on this giant cliffhanger. Oh, a cosmos divided won't stop what's to come. Like, well, what is it?
Yeah.
Like obviously, that just left us there. That is probably the vaguest ending that we've had. And then Dragonflight was more like, oh, so that loose end is tied up. So, what's next? Obviously, the World Soul Saga.
Yeah.
And already they're dropping hints about the World Soul Saga in the post-raid epilogues.
You know, it's kind of funny too about well, not funny, rather. I think something that like tonally the Dragonflight's going for right now is like, I think like I mentioned earlier, it's definitely gonna be like that like very peaceful time that in a few years we're gonna be like, man, I wish it was like that again. I think but I think it also kind of it lacks that Dragonflight like as a whole. It's kind of lacked that like Warcraft like edge or Warcraft grit, like Kai said in some spots. And that's I granted when I say that I like a lot of Dragonflight. I really I'll go on record saying it. Like I loved like the Sundered Flame storyline and stuff like that. Like I like Dragonflight a lot. Like it's probably one of my favorite expansions. The story is very hit or miss for me in some spots. Like I really like parts of it, and then some spots just don't make me feel much. Like it's a really weird feeling, but it's a very safe expansion story-wise, I'd say. Um, in order to keep the discussion moving, I have like two more questions kind of for each of us, and that'll put us at our hour. So as we mentioned, and we've kind of this one probably won't be as much discussion, but what did you all think of Farak as a villain this patch? And I originally had scripted like let's talk about him in the ending, but we all kind of did. So I will just go on record. I really like that Farak. Like I just like his personality. He's fun, chaotic, as Ban said, very Starscream like. So and I've really liked all his cinematic appearances too. Like I love him and like but his first appearance, and then the one where he turns into like a meteor and goes into the Zarelak caverns. He's just a fun character, and if he does come back, I think I do think if they did it in like the epilogue patch, it would be a good time to tease that Farak survived, like Ban said. I'll throw it out in the same order though. Law, what did you think of Farak?
Farak is probably one of the most unique villains that we've had in recent years. I mean, not in the sense that like, you know, he's different, but like in the sense that like he feels like a traditional Warcraft villain. Chaotic, with one purpose of just like burning shit down to the ground. So obviously I think Farak has a lot of good reception. He has a very like cut and dry motive. It's not very complicated, like obviously with Zoval or Sylvanas. With Farak right there, like we know what his motives are. We know how he operates, and we know that at the end of the day, he just wants to see the world burn. Nothing else and nothing more. But either way, I think he's just an excellent villain. Obviously, I think one of the few nuances of his character, though, which I can't really think of, to be honest, he's just an excellent chaotic villain. But obviously, is there such a thing as too much chaos?
I would say no.
All right. I feel like that would be like a very facetious question, especially when asking about a very chaotic evil villain.
I feel like the old gods are the answer to that.
I was gonna say he feels like a very like animated Ragnaros.
I never thought about that, but that's actually a good point. He's Ragnaros with feet and he had feet in Cataclysm, but he's
With wings.
Ragnaros with wings.
And he's voiced by Matt Mercer. I mean, Matt Mercer. I was explaining this earlier, but this is the year of Matt Mercer being iconic villains. Because earlier in the year he was Ganondorf.
Maybe he's actually
in
just
Tears of the Kingdom.
Maybe Farak's actually just Rexar in disguise. I did it for you, Ben. We had to mention him.
All right, that's our quota for the show. So Ban is not allowed to mention Rexar at all.
I didn't get to mention him. It has to be me.
Oh, okay. All
And
right. Well, okay. Well, Box and I have, so that leaves you and Kai. So you get one shot.
All right.
Let's see.
Sorry, I know I'm the guest here, but I know I shouldn't establish the rules here.
I've been the longest running co-host on here, and I say we need more Rexar. I got a lot to say, but I'm waiting.
Well, that's like your opinion, man.
You know what? I'm gonna side with Ban. We need more Rexar. We need more Chen Stormstout.
There's somebody we've
Need more
been
Khadgar.
missing more than Rexar, I think. At least one character. That's
Khadgar?
Mansaroy.
Oh yeah, Mansaroy Flamefist needs to come back.
Mansaroy.
Hey, speaking of
my
mages,
God.
Khadgar. That's all.
Khadgar,
Yeah,
yeah,
actually.
Khadgar.
I love Khadgar.
Memes aside, definitely Khadgar.
Surfs up, champions.
All right, so let's.
He actually said that. All
wait,
right, anyways.
wait, what? When did you say that?
Yeah, surfs up, champion.
Oh. All right, so I am going to toss this question across the room to just a Torment Banarak to Jakai.
Oh my god.
He's definitely been so far entertaining every time kind of I've seen him, and it feels like his motives are pretty simple to understand. He's just kind of there for power. I mean, and of course, the default stuff. But yeah, I think as far as villains go, he's a good one, especially for the expansion. More setup would definitely be good. So, hopefully he does, get to shine again someday, because then you've got at least Dragonflight's development and something more to look forward to in the future. With the Primalists, they didn't get as much development as, maybe they could have. It does seem like, at least Viranoth should be getting more. So, yeah. Can't add too much more there, except for the fact that, I have enjoyed the cutscenes and stuff that show them off. And, yeah, hope to see more.
I'm with you there, Kai, with the cutscenes.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Bladesnaw.
That's my father's name. No, I'm good. Yes, Farak is probably... I've gone on lib saying the Incarnates. All of them, really. Even if Viranoth did become a goody-goody at the end there. The Incarnates have been probably the best part of Dragonflight, and they are, in my opinion, they are up there. They're getting there with my favorites, with Garrosh and Gul'dan. Will they get to the same level? Probably not, but I'll give Aridocron all of my faith. But in terms of Farak, I really love his dynamic, his whole character of just this crazy fireball lizard who is off the rails and is just on the cusp of going... he loves the fight. He loves the battle. The book does a great job of portraying him. He's like the cousin of Alexstrasza. Spoilers for the book, I guess. It doesn't really matter, I think, because of just how little that really mattered in their character dynamic, but like he was like the first incarnate. He was the first one that kind of wanted to fight against the Titans, and Amirdrassil kind of used that to his own, volition, his own plans. I mean, Amirdrassil hates the Titans just as much as Farak, if not more. But I really like Farak's whole dynamic between Amirdrassil, where, like, again, it's very Starscream-esque and Megatron-esque, where he wants to be the leader, he wants to be in charge, he wants to be idolized by the rest of the dragons, and his little cults, the Primalists. And in a way, he almost got that, but, like, he's a dick, so he kind of squanders it. He's over here. What I love about a villain, and I feel like this was so lacking with Zoval, was like the guy, he looks at his lackeys as idiots, as fools, as, things that he can toss aside, and he outright does it. And I don't know what it is about a villain, but when they do that, it's fun. It adds to their villainy, and I think Farak really was a fun villain. Now, I don't think he felt like the proper final villain of Dragonflight. That felt like it was supposed to be Amirdrassil, but Amirdrassil bailed and kind of somebody had to take his place. And I feel like that is kind of like on Dragonflight as a whole. It should have done a better job of setting up Farak as the final villain. They probably should have done that in the Zarlak Caverns arc or something, or like Amirdrassil should have said something along the lines of, you will deal with this. Like, he kind of does, but like, I feel like they could have done a better job of setting it up that Farak was going to be the final villain of Dragonflight. Does he? I think he does hold the crown a little bit better than others. Like, I feel like when you compare him to, say, again, Zoval or N'Zoth or Archimonde, or Argus, he holds it a lot better, because it does feel like there's a little bit of more effort to setting him up. But he is a fun character, and if he is coming back, I don't think it'll be in the same way. I think the dynamic will be very shifted and different. But he was great, and like, I do kind of wish they leaned more into his dual personality between the Shadow Flame and himself. I really wish that went somewhere, and I'm hoping it still does. That's what I'm really hoping for. Oh man, if we get like a two-headed Farak when he comes back or something, that would be cool. Like a two-headed proto-dragon. Like, one side is the Shadow Flame, one side is him. I don't know, but yeah, he was good. I will say that all the incarnates were good. Farak was also a fun guy. He's not a Amirdrassil. Amirdrassil will hold the crown for me, but he was great.
All right. So now that we've all talked about I'm just gonna say it, even though it's not Ban's favorite incarnate. Now that we've talked about our favorite incarnate, Farak.
You liar!
The last question I want to throw out for this podcast is, how do you think this ending will impact the war within? I know that's probably a little bit of a loaded question right now, but I'm actually going to start with Ban on this one, because I've started with Law on everyone.
All right. Okay. I will mirror a lot of what you've been saying so far about Dragonflight. I do think that Dragonflight was on purpose. Especially after Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands and just the grimness of past expansions. I think Dragonflight was supposed to be very hopeful and very bright and a little bit cheesy. Could that have been done better? Like, could they have a little bit more grittiness? Absolutely. But I think that War Within, especially with what we know the next chapters for each, I think we're going to be going down an avalanche from here on out. I think that the story is going to get darker and darker and darker, to the point where we're just going to be getting almost bad ends. Not like in terms of like, oh, that was a shitty dialogue, or like, I'm talking like people are gonna die, people are going to lose. Like, we already know that Midnight is going to be like, the sun will be corrupted. Or that Ulduar, we're going to have the Titans come back. Why are they coming back? Well, you know what Amirdrassil said. He purposely wants the Titans to come back after Xal'atath, corrupts the world soul. So I think either Azeroth is going to bite it, or she's going to get corrupted or something, but it's going to get dark from now on, I think. I think War Within is going to end with Xal'atath getting her win with the Sunwell, and then the Sunwell will affect the world soul, and then Last Titan, by its name alone, I think the Titans are going to bite it too, and I just think that this is going to be the last happy, sappy ending. Obviously, there'll still be victories. There's not going to be, like, nonstop loses. That's not how WoW works. But I think that the conclusion to each storyline from now on is going to get darker. That's my interpretation and my belief, especially with Metzen at the helm. If War Within cinematic was anything to go by, it was very hopeful, but it was also, like, a little bit of bleakness to it, too.
You sense some stuff was about to go down.
Yeah, I absolutely think that that's the ball that is happening. That snowball that I was talking about.
So I will throw it out to you, Kai.
You know, I had a thought just a moment ago, and then I totally lost it. But, and it's driving me crazy now to try and think of what it was again. But, I've been trying to consider what maybe them getting their... If them getting their power back will have any kind of implication for the War Within, or if they're going to play some greater role in the expansion itself. And I've been trying to speculate on what that role could possibly be. I imagine they're going to be heavily tied to Drakthir from now on, even if they're not Drakthir themselves. So that could have been part of the purpose. I don't know how much, or if even, we see much more of Farak or Earth Dude, suddenly. Forgive me, it is very late for me, so I'm kind of dumb right now. I don't know, I can't really think of anything to say more than that. I'm just totally drawing a blank tonight, guys, I'm sorry.
You're totally good, Kai. Especially because it's like almost 11 right now.
I usually am waking up for work in like 4 hours, so you'll have to forgive my stupid brain. It's hard to speak at length about things.
Alright, so Law, do you want to finish this one off?
Gladly, yeah. So, I think this, just to echo what Banneret has said, I do agree, by the way, that this point forward, we're going to see a lot of this giant snowball effect of actions happening within the World Soul Saga. But that said, this what we saw in the 10-2 epilogue and in the ending is sort of a taste of what we can expect, because there have been characters that have been specific characters like Jaina and Thrall that have mentioned that they have been hearing some voices, almost like if it was a song. And obviously these two and Anduin as well, they're the ones hearing this song, so they're gonna try to investigate further. Then you have Khadgar saying that Eridikron's out there with some quote-unquote harbinger, which obviously at this point we all know is Xal'atath. So everything that has been happening in in this patch, especially in the ending, with Azeroth giving the aspects their power, could in fact have giant implications moving into the World Soul Saga, more specifically during either Midnight or the Last Titan. I think they're gonna come back in the Last Titan and try to deal with Eridikron, because with Eridikron coming back to deal with the Titans himself, well, we could see for a very, very big showdown where a lot of the characters may die. There might be a lot of elves being tossed left and right, especially during Midnight. I'd be very sad if we lost some of our big best characters, like, I don't know, like Ban. Like, I think you'd be very, very sad if in Midnight they just straight up killed Rexxar, or if they killed Khadgar, or if they just straight up killed Chen Stormside, which I doubt they would. I highly doubt that they would straight up do that to Chen.
You're trying to snap my heart in two right now, aren't you, Law?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's going on here, huh?
I think no. I legit think that the World Soul Saga is going to set out to kill some of our beloved characters and show us that this is a threat that is not to be trifled with.
I could see
Give me
that.
depression.
So I'm.
If Rexar bites it, oh boy.
You are. I can imagine you'd be livid. You'd be like absolutely pissed.
If he goes out like Sarfang or Varian did, I'll be happy. Well, I'll be sad and happy, you know. It'll be one of those things. But if he goes out like Vol'jin, we're gonna be the next time BlizzCon happens after Rexar's dead. There's gonna be an angry little guy on the stage yelling at Metzen.
But no, actually though, those are my detailed thoughts going into the World Soul Saga, which I'm looking forward to. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, me too. Even if we do lose a bunch of characters, I actually like tragedy. If you know anything about me as a writer,
I was gonna
no.
say that. I would say we kind of need more loss right now, to be honest.
Well,
Agreed.
the Alliance. Let's give the Alliance some losses, friends. I think.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Bit of a,
Like, you know,
bit of a
back
break
in-
after.
Hold on 1 second.
Just and more alliance. Yeah, it's fine.
Do you realize who you have in your chat right now?
That's why I'm saying it.
God damn, y'all are out for blood tonight.
Band came for scalps.
I got a blood for blood, Loktar Ogar.
Blood for the blood god.
So as everybody can see, our podcast is 100% horde bias every week.
Hey, I'm neutral. My main is alliance. So
But you know what, Kai?
I
You also have Chen Tao, the Motion Warrior. So
I do have Jinta.
Jakai has that.
Zugrensium.
There we go.
Yeah, see,
There's
some-
Zugrensium, my orc character. I also have Julian, my undead hunter.
Zug.
I have your pally pal, my blood elf paladin.
And on that note, Law, you need to
Yeah.
delete your pally pal. Law needs to delete all of his characters. So anyway, Real Talk, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Law, thanks for being our guest this week.
Of course, thank you.
Y'all can check out Laurentium at his YouTube channel. He does WoW Machinima, WoW content. He streams on Twitch. Check out Laurentium. You can check out Jakai on Twitter for many Pandaren-related posts. You can check out Bannerack on YouTube, on Twitter/X. I'm just going to call it Twitter. But you can follow me at Boximus Mike on Twitter. And if you like this video, let us know in the comments below, any subjects you'd like us to tackle at some point. And as usual, I'll do the shameless leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you guys again for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you very much, Box and gang.
Hell yeah! Let's talk more about Rexar.
NG Firepaw. Until next time, my friends.
And Khadgar.
And Khadgar. And Khadgar. And Thrall.
And Laura Walker Show.
And Low Rocker Show.
And
And you know what? Let's throw Gen Greymane as well.
I'm down.
And Scale Commander Sarkareth.
No.
Oh yeah.
That's
No.
that's pushing it, bud.
All right,
No
Prophet Villain.
Okay, all right.
All right,
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, we'll end on Prophet Villain. So we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Laters.
Oh.
Why?